welcome to the interview, Caleb. Thanks for making the time. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Yourself?
Also fine. I'm doing very fine. So, Caleb, you are enjoying from this scholarship in Canada, which is really amazing. So many students also want to have this scholarship so that they can pursue their masters and further education abroad, but they don't know the right ways to consider. That is why I'm having this interview with you, since you're already a beneficiary of this, so that you kind of guide students who are interested in applying for these scholarships.
Cool. That is good. That is an awesome work you're doing there. And I advise that you keep up with that. And yeah, sure.
So thank you. Without wasting much time, kindly introduce yourself to us. You let us know the program you are studying, the university you are in, and any other thing that you think you can add to that so that we can get to know you.
Okay, yes. So as you've already mentioned several times, my name is Caleb Danquah, and I'm a graduate student at Concordia University, as maybe you can see from my hoodie. And I'm currently studying actuarial mathematics, and I also work alongside with as a graduate teaching and research assistant at the Department of Mathematics and Statistics here at Concordia. So yeah, that is a little bit about myself, unless of course there's something else you want to know.
Oh, well, I think that's fine. That's fine. So before you can apply for study for masters, what are the basic documents that they need to have?
Okay, so for master's degree, so using your term basic, I would say you would obviously need your degree certificate and your degree or diploma and your transcript and maybe your CV and what else? If you are coming from a country like Ghana or some other countries that are exempted from writing English proficiency test, you may also need to get a letter from your university stating that the language of command used in the university was English. Yes, and yeah, I think that is the basic document you may need to provide here.
Okay, that's fine. So I understand that you are benefiting from a scholarship in Canada, right? So in Canada, how does the system look like? Did you apply for the scholarship separately, and then you also applied for admission separately, or you applied for both of them together? How was it like?
Okay, yeah, so that is interesting. You know, usually, unlike the US, for Canadian institutions, usually they evaluate applications for admissions together with funding opportunities available. So I didn't have to apply for any scholarship or any funding. I just had to apply for regular admission. And then once it's a thesis-based program, they're going to evaluate your application together with any funding opportunities that may be available. Yeah, so I know this happens in quite a number of Canadian institutions. Yeah, so that is pretty much how I went about my process. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Also, when you are applying for your scholarship, did you apply for did you use any kind of separate documents to apply for the scholarship side and then a separate one for the admission to the university, but then both of them went together, or the same documents that you used to apply for admission to the university with the same documents that also stood for the scholarship?
Okay, so so like I mentioned earlier, for myself, I didn't have to put in any separate application for any scholarship. So it's just the documents that were required for my admission or application. That was the same documents that were required. In fact, sorry, when you asked of the basic documents, I forgot to mention one basic but very, very important document. That is letter or letters of recommendation. Yes, so once you submit your application, or once I submitted my application for admission, and attaching all my supporting documents, especially the recommendation letters, I heard or I learned usually for funding opportunities, they do consider recommendation letters a lot. So yeah, so I didn't really have to submit a separate document aside the ones I used or I submitted while I was applying for the school. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So you applied to Concordia University. Was that the only university you applied to, or you applied to other ones too?
Okay, so I applied to Concordia University. That is in Canada. I applied to just Concordia University. In the United States, I applied to University of Texas at El Paso. And also I applied to the African Institute of Mathematical Science, Rwanda. Yeah, so these are the 3 institutions I applied to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and it seems that it's very important that students apply to several schools in order to increase their chances of being admitted, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course, you don't want to put your, how do they call it? All your eggs in one basket. Yeah, so fortunately for me, for instance, I gained admission with funding to all these 3 institutions. In fact, AIMS, for instance, they sent me my flight ticket and hotel bookings and everything. You get it. So it was now up to me to decide on which of them to like really pursue and really move forward with. You get an idea. So then you apply to several institutions and you get offers from all these institutions. You will now have to sit down or sit back and like really do your thorough research to choose amongst the institutions. So yeah, our advice that's always apply to at least 3 schools. That is, if you have the capacity. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the name of this scholarship that you're benefiting from in Canada? What's the name of the scholarship? And can you let us know what the package entails?
Okay, so yeah, actually is a funding that is provided by the institution or the university. Is not an external funding. Okay. It's like a joint funding. So once you are admitted and you are being given funding, your offer letter would only be, or it will be only stated in your offer letter that you are receiving this amount or this total amount as funding throughout your stay. And maybe they can further, I don't know for other institutions, but for my institution, that's what they did. Then they can further give a little details that's the funding is a joint funding for maybe research position or research bursary, teaching assistantship position, and maybe fellowship award. So my package had these 3 components: fellowship from my faculty, research bursary, and also my earnings from the teaching assistantship position. Yeah, I mean, that is what a lot of Canadian institutions do. It's quite or slightly different in the US, but yeah.
Okay. So when you were mentioning the documents that you use in application, concerning the personal statements, what do you think is very important that every student who is applying to for studies in Canada should involve in their personal statement? Do you think there's any specific stuff which shouldn't be omitted?
Yes. Well, to be honest, I think that would like really depend on the individual and the story the individual want to tell. You get it? Because your personal statement is basically you telling them about your academic journey so far and where you see yourself or where you want to be in a couple of years' time, or your ambitions. Yes, so you have to kind of like defend to them, this has been my preparation towards achieving this goal. Kind of, you get it. So maybe if you want to become a professor or something like that, then you have to like tell them what you've done so far towards achieving your goal of becoming a professor. Do you get it? So that is where you have to maybe state that you studied this program, so you want to become a professor in maybe mechanical engineering, or myself, actuarial science. You have to state that you've pursued a bachelor's degree in actuarial science, which has prepared you in some specific courses and stuff like that. If your career requires maybe professional examinations, you have to state in it maybe your effort or what you've done so far to pursue these professional exams and stuff like that. So it's basically you telling them what you want to become and what you've done so far to achieve that. Yeah.
Okay. That's really fine. So all these documents you mentioned for application or the requirements, you submitted all of them to the Concordia University application portal, right?
Yeah, actually, Concordia University, I had to submit just my statement of purpose, my CV, and my transcript. Yes, statement of purpose, CV, transcript. Yeah, I think these are the only 3 documents I had to upload. Yes, and a letter from the university explaining that the language of command was English. For the recommendation letters, you would have to mention, provide the details of the professors who would provide the letters for you. So you just have to state their names and contact details. The university would reach out to them directly so that they provide the recommendation letters. I mean, this is what is done in most schools, but some schools may require you to get the letter from the supervisors or your referees and upload them yourself. Yes, so yeah.
Did you use any agents or involve any application, everything yourself?
No, I didn't involve any agents. I did everything by myself.
Because most students may complain that they may not be able to pay agents, so it's very important that they know that.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, there are a lot of agencies that are available and willing to assist students, but like you rightly said, they usually charge a huge amount of money for a process which you can like sit down and do yourself. All you need to do is like invest time researching about the program and the scholarship you want to like really pursue, and then spending a lot of time to prepare the document. That is what the agent will do. You realize that when you get in touch with agents, you would be providing all the documents. What they would be doing is maybe proofreading and like making some small editing and combining the documents and submitting it to the portal, but they don't really do anything special. So whatever the agent does is something that you, the student, can do if you invest more time in the process. Yeah.
Okay. Concerning funds, will you provide any form of for your visa at the embassy?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
In proof of funds, that's a bank statement, proof of funds, or any bank statements or financial statements when you're applying for your visa.
Oh yeah, the Canadian visa process is a whole. I don't know. I think maybe another time we can hold a session for that, because it's just a whole something on its own. It's a bit involving. So, but to answer your question, yes, I had to provide proof of funds, even though I was going to be fully covered, or my scholarship was like full for the entire length of my stay in Canada. But I still had to prove to them that I could cater for myself with a minimum amount. Yeah, so yeah, maybe we can go into details another time. That should be a topic for another day. Yeah.
That really. Now, after gathering all these documents together and after submitting them to Concordia University site, what happened next?
Yeah, so basically you have to submit your document and make sure your supervisors or your referees submit their recommendation letters too. Then all you have to do next is to wait for a decision. Then once you get a decision, you start with your visa process. Yeah.
Okay. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
So, we use for the whole process. Is there any part of the whole application process which you'd like to say is really important that students should kind of take note at?
Okay.
Of
Okay, so if I get you, or you wanted to know with respect to, are you talking about the visa process or the admission, the school?
Yes, so process that you went through. Okay, so were there any parts of the whole process which you say that this part is very important, that students should pay much concern when they get to this side of the whole application process?
Oh, okay. So the entire one, the visa and school application stuff. Is that
Yes,
what?
yes.
Okay. Well, I think it depends on the program that the student is willing to pursue, and the province which the student is targeting. You know, for research-based program. Oh, and let me say this: most Canadian institutions, over 90% roughly, provide funding to just thesis-based students. Do you
Okay.
get it? Yeah. So when you're applying or choosing a program to study, you realize quite often you see thesis-based and course-based. So it's advisable you choose like thesis-based or research-based program. You get it? Because the reason why that is so is because quite a number of your funding comes from research bursary. Do you get it?
Okay.
And if you are not in a research-based program, you get the idea. So the most important part of the process is getting a supervisor. You get it, a research supervisor. And you can do this by sending cold emails to potential supervisors and stuff like that. And mind you, if I know quite a number of people who tried applying to institutions. They have very good academic records, but the universities told them point blank that until they find a supervisor, they can't admit them. Do you get it? So getting a supervisor is like kind of like you main key into the to get into the institution, kind of. So that is one important part of the admission process. And for the visa process, gathering your documents, make sure whatever documents you are gathering is like genuine, no fake document. And also, as much as possible, try to prove to them that you have like the financial capacity to survive in the country. Yeah, basically that.
Concerning cold emails and finding of supervisors, one viewer texted me today in line with today's interview. Said a university in the UK, Aberdeen University, and then to text a supervisor. She wants to go through the cold emailing method, and she's confused on how she can kind of contact the supervisors. Can you say anything to her?
Okay. Yeah. So if the program requires you to get a supervisor, then obviously you need to get a supervisor whose research interest or research area is in line with yours. So how I went by mine supervisor search was I kind of like went through the faculty's profiles to identify a supervisor whose research area is around the research I did during my undergraduate. You get the idea? So maybe in my undergraduate, I did a research on modeling claims frequency and severity. So I identified a professor whose research area is in claims or modeling claims data sets, kind of. So in reaching out to the professor, I first of all identified professor's research gates profile and see if the professor has worked on any project or any recent research on modeling claims frequency or something related to mine. And I just read through it, or maybe just skim through it, and I send the professor an email telling the professor that, oh, maybe I went through the faculty profile and I identified his research area is in line with mine, and also I saw his paper on this particular topic, and what was very fascinating about his paper was maybe I just mentioned a line or two in his research, and I'll just like give it more flesh by saying, I mean, I'm interested in his research area or his paper because during my undergraduate, I also worked on a research on this and this and that. You get the idea. So kind of like provide him, you kind of like provide reasons for you wanting him to be your supervisor. You get it. So that is one approach I used. There could be other approaches, but this is what I used and it was very effective. So I would advise her to also employ the same thing. Yeah.
Okay, so I believe Maya will be watching this video. So after she watches it, she'll be able to understand how to go about things.
Sure.
So,
perfect.
yes, that's amazing. So how long did the whole process take for you? From the point where you carried out the first application to Concordia University to the point where you actually got the admission and then went to Canada, how long was that whole process?
I'll say it took me close to a year, or maybe more, but it took me close to a year because I really, right from second year or so, I really wanted to attend Concordia. So from second year, around third year, I started reviewing faculty profiles, like just identifying, going through the profiles of professors and seeing the one I might like to work with. And, you can really read reviews about professors. There's a website, Rate My Professor. You can really read reviews about professors there. So like I use these resources to try to identify the professors way back in 200, 300. And final year, when I was about graduating, I really started gathering my documents. So I submitted my application in December, I think first or second week of December, and got my admission in February of the following year, and then started working on my visa process and got my visa approval in September. Yeah, sure. So roughly a year, or maybe more. Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay, that's really fine. A year seems a bit longer, but that's
yeah.
fine.
Actually, it's not long enough if you really know what you're about to. I mean, you're up for. It's really not long enough. People invest a lot of time and several months and years into processes like this. So yeah.
So the reason why I said it seemed a bit longer was because yesterday I interviewed someone from China and his took about 3 months. So when he said that, yeah, I was like,
Oh, I see. Okay, well, the processes might vary. The Canadian, the visa process alone, it takes averagely 3 months or more to get it to get your approval. And once you get your approval, it might you are not certain that after waiting for 3 months or 4 months, you're going to get an approval or not. So when it comes 3 months and you don't get it, you have to submit another application. I know someone who waited for 6 months and he got the decision and it was a refusal. So she had to reapply. You get the idea. So mostly a lot of time goes into the visa application. That's what I was mentioning. That could be a whole session on its own. So yeah.
Okay. I have lots of questions concerning the visa application, but since we've come to an agreement that we should kind of put that in a different video, I think I wouldn't go into that. Now, I want to know one thing which you think drastically your chances of receiving both the admission and then the scholarship. Or what do you think is one thing that drastically increases the chances for students to gain admission and then the scholarship? Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that is a good question because one thing that I feel increased my chances was or my chance of getting into Concordia was these institutions, they usually organize open house and info sessions and stuff like that. A lot of students don't really pay attention to that, but that is one thing I'll advise that you all pay attention to, or potential applicants pay attention to, because during my time when I was planning to apply, Concordia organized like an open house, which I joined. And in the course of the open house, there was a breakout rooms session or something like that, where, yeah, so the rooms was based on departments, the various departments. And since my program falls under the math and stats department, I joined that room. And fortunately for me, it was just myself and one other Mexican who were in the breakout room for the Department of Maths and Stats. And during for that room alone, we had the graduate advisor, we had the graduate program director, and all those people there. You get it. So there we were, just the two of us, and all these like top administrators, or yes, of the departments in the meeting. You get it. So that was like our opportunity to like sell ourselves out, really interact, because we were there, we had like 30 minutes or more, 30 to 1 hour or so or more, and it's just the two of us. Do you get it? So, and they are available. Yes, do you get it? So we had to really talk. Oh, they asked us a lot of questions, got to know us, and like yeah, it was pretty interactive, to the point that at that point it was during that day it was snowing outside, so they had to show us outside because they knew me, I was African and I had not seen snow before, so they showed me outside. It was like it was snowing and blah blah blah. So, and he was even mentioning what I should mention in my admission or my application. He asked me, do I have any leadership positions or extracurricular experience? I should make sure I mention that. In fact, one interesting that happened was there was one professor who was new into the department. So his details and emails and stuff like that wasn't on the university's website. And there we were looking for supervisors. So they told us, the two of us, they sent us the email of the professor that this is a new professor. They don't think he has a lot of students yet. So we should contact the professor and mention that they gave us his contacts to reach out to. You get the idea. So we reached out to him, and guess what? The two of us, we are currently in Concordia, and we have the professor as our supervisor, and we are very close friends now. You get the idea. So these are some of the advantages you may get when you join an info session or an open house session. So that is one thing I would advise everyone or potential applicants to look out for.
Wow, that's amazing. So it looks like you already got, or the school kind of got to know you long before you even carried out.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. In which year you joined this? Which year were you in the Ghanaian university? Which university were you in?
I attended the University of Energy and Natural Resources in Sunyani, Ghana. Yes, and I graduated in 2020. Okay. Was it 2020? Yes, 2020. And yeah, so I started working on my application, or like putting files together and submitting around that time. And I remember that was around that same time was when the open house session was held. Yes, but these open house really varies for each school. So you have to like really visit your school's website or department's websites to look for upcoming open house or info sessions. Sorry, yeah, and join.
Okay. Meaning that when you joined the open house, you were in about, let's say, year 4, right? You were about graduating, right? Or you had already graduated?
Actually, yeah. So I had graduated, and that time was COVID, so I don't really know what to say whether we had graduated or not, because it was COVID and everything was just messed up. So yeah, but I'll say it to the best of my knowledge, I had graduated, like I was done with studies and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Also, the interview, I had some viewers messaging me. They wanted me to ask you this, whether they could work whilst they are students in Canada, or yeah. So let's consider that one now. Do you have any idea on that? Whether students can work part time as being students in Canada?
Yeah, actually, that is one reason why, like, Canada over the US on 80 days, I mean, I have these debates with friends, like quite often. In the US, you can't like work and study at the same time, but Canada, your study permit is like sort of a work permit at the same time. So you can work whilst you school and study at the same time, and the only difference is when you're in school or when school is in session, you can't work for more than 20 hours a week. You get it? But once you are excuse on break for maybe summer, then you can work for 40 hours a week. You get it? And that is like a huge advantage that Canada has over the US. For the US, you can't work whilst you school. And even during the summer, if you want to do an internship or something like that, you need to apply for a different visa. Is it a J1 visa or something like that, to be able to even do an internship or work? Yes, but here in Canada, in your study permit, it's stated clearly in it, like you can work whilst you study. So yeah.
Okay, and I also read about designated learning institutions that the students can work only if their schools are designated learning institutions. Do you have any idea on that?
In fact, for you to be given a study permit, you should be accepted into a designated learning institution. So the immigration and refugee, basically their immigration units, they have a list of designated learning institutions. So basically, there are a list of institutions that they've kind of like approved to accept international students. Yeah, so for you to even be accepted or for you to be given a study permit to come into the country, you have to, or you must be accepted into one of these designated learning institutions. So yes, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. And since students can work whilst they are schooling there, then it also means that even after school, there's also a chance or likelihood that they can continue to work there, provided they have the accurate documents, right?
Yeah, that is another reason why Canada over the US, because I mean the US, once you are done with your studies, like you are literally done. You have to maybe apply for work permits and extended or something like that, and you have to kind of like, you are not certain you are going to get it, but for the Canadian process, if you school here in Canada, I mean, you can get up to 3 years post-study work permits here. So just for schooling here, you qualify for 3 years work permits after your studies here. You get it? And yeah, so after the 3 years work permits, if you want to or wish to extend, then you can maybe apply for an extension or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. One viewer messaged me concerning GPA. He wanted to know whether there are GPA cutoffs for admission and also for the scholarship in Canada. Do you have any idea on that?
Yes, so actually it would depend on the institution and the program you are or the person wishes to pursue or study. And but I'll say for like the top institutions here, the top institutions here, usually it's like 3.0 is like the lowest that they consider for master's program. But I think generally I'll say even with as low as 2.0 or second class lower in general, you can possibly get admission into schools. Yeah, sure. So there
Okay,
isn't like a fixed one. It varies for each school, but I would say generally at least you should have like a lower or something like that. Yeah.
okay. Caleb, I think we're about to end our interview. Do you think that it's important that students take extracurriculars very important, or do you think the extracurriculars kind of increase the chances for students to also have these scholarships? What do you think?
Exactly. I mean, they really do count, you know. I feel schools don't really like only consider your GPA when evaluating or consider, you know, these American institutions, like they really value sports and stuff like that. So for example, if you're an athlete or you're a sports guy or lady, you have to, and you have any achievement of that sort, you have to like really mention them, you know. If not, and you are into maybe community service clubs or something like that, you have to also mention them, because like I mentioned earlier on, during the open house, the graduates, the program director asked me if I was involved in any extracurricular activities. He, in fact, he even asked me specifically which clubs or which associations did I serve in. Yeah, and interestingly, when I was in UNE, I was a master president, that is Mathematical Sciences Student Association president, and they also have like a master here in Concordia. So I told him, and he was like, "Oh, there's a master here." They kind of like built, made the conversation more interesting. So yes, they do really value extracurricular involvements or experiences. So I advise everyone, if you can't really serve in a leadership position, just at least belong to one or two associations or clubs to build your application. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's really amazing. So, Caleb, we are about ending the interview. There are so many people who are watching this interview today. Some of them may have applied several times and then they have been rejected. So, because of that, they've given up, right? And there are others who have plans of applying for their masters, specifically in Canada, but they don't really know how to go about things. Some of them don't know what to even do. But it's good that you've been able to talk about this to show the way and kind of guide so many students who also be applying to Canadian universities. What are the last words to viewers who are watching this, especially those who have given up and then those who have plans of applying and those who have doubts and all that? What are your last words to viewers?
Okay, so my final words would be, I mean, they shouldn't give up. Of course, I mean, they'll say we've heard yat, but yes, that is one thing we would keep on saying. I mean, don't give up. Just keep on pursuing, be persistent, and invest time. You know, these things involves a lot of time. If you just spend 1 month, or I don't know, it might be simple in some other countries, but for the Canadian process and stuff, like it's really involves a lot of process. So don't just spend 1 month, 1 week or something like that to gather your application. Just take your time, invest into the process, and you should be fine. I know people with 2.5, 2.8, I mean, lower class GPs gain admission with funding. You get it into institutions in Canada, and so it's very possible. They shouldn't lose hope. You might get a lot of rejection, but once you put in the effort and you persist, you eventually get one school, just that one school saying a yes. So just if you are religious like myself, invest prayers and just put in the efforts, and you should be fine. I mean, if you are doing this and you have any questions or you want us to talk about, you can just reach out to me via email or LinkedIn or even Instagram or Twitter. I mean, my name is Caleb Danquah on all those handles, and this is my face there. So you can just reach out to me at any time, then we can just discuss. Yeah, sure.
Yes, that was a very great motivation. And in fact, I'll add all your handles to the description box. So viewers, please check the description box. You'll see all the handles for Instagram, Facebook, and his email and everything. You can contact him. Caleb is a very good friend. Now, I like the fact that you added the idea of GPA. There's this friend of mine who was from Nigeria. She graduated university. She read agriculture, BSc, and she graduated university with a CGPA of 2.2, but she still got a fully funded scholarship. Yes, she got several rejections, but that didn't bring her down. She moved on. She used the code emailing method, as you mentioned, and that was really amazing. I think I also want to advise involve the idea of code emailing whenever they are applying, because it also helps.
Yeah, sure, it does.
So thank you very much. We'll have to do a part 2, which will cover the visa side, because it seems that most students usually get admission, but then the problem is mostly at the visa part, how to go about things. So we'll have to do a part 2 of this interview respects to that. So I think we'll be interacting more to schedule a date for that as well.
Sure, no problem. I'm available, so yeah.
Thank you.
Last experiment, to give me a very good signal. I mean, excellent results. My professor was even happy.
Many questions in your MCQ theory questions. You can just say describe the muscles forming the anterolateral abdominal wall. This can be